Hello, guys, and welcome back to our podcast. And today we will discuss about a lot of things. This week has been it made a lot of big moves, especially in Bitcoin and other stuff. Again, this is not a financial advice. Again, you are here with Mr. Christopher A. Ohano, or you call me CJ, and we are here with
You're here with Will, your friend in the metaverse somewhere.
interesting. Now, let's go with our first topic. This is interesting, guys. US inflation is slowing down, and Bitcoin and ETH and other coins are rallying up. Do you think that's real that we're going into the good side now? We're done with the bad times and we are starting the good times?
Is the short answer. I
Yeah.
think the sentiment is that just because inflation is not going up, that Bitcoin go up is
Mhm.
not correct. If you understand inflation, it still means the price of stuff is going up by whatever the inflation print was, 8.5% or something. So that means the price of stuff is still going up. If you look at interest rates, people get interest rates and inflation mixed up. They are related, but interest rates trail inflation. So what I want to say is the Fed, the central banks are still increasing interest rates. This is negative for the economy. It's negative for businesses. So the risk is, and this is what I feel the major risk is, and I think we need to go through this process first, and that is the interest rates are going to keep going up for borrowers, so for people with home loans, people with business loans, that sort of stuff, and the economy is going to crack, and we're going to go through a recession. Now we could talk about the not recession, US basically ignoring the fact that they are in a recession already. Um, but the point is that eventually things are going to crumble down. And when you get things crumbling down, you get an increased risk of capitulation in some sort of market, and that flows through into other markets. My belief is that's going to happen in the big stock markets in America, the S&P, um, and obviously that's going to force sell a lot of people, um, and Bitcoin and crypto is going to be affected, and that's no different than any other times.
That's what I've been telling to my friends as well. Also to my Filipino bros, I'm gonna give you a heads up. Bangko Central of Philippines just increased their interest rate by a half percentage. So to those people who are having loans in Bangko Central, just expect that you're going to pay a lot more. And I already correlated to this. Our inflation is still not stopping. Inflation keeps going up, and that by doing that, as inflation goes to the higher peak, people will be selling a lot of assets, and things will go down. And eventually, we are still not done. You just hear that we are not done yet. We still have a lot of learn.
Yeah, and I think um, places like the Philippines, like commonly known as emerging markets,
Yeah.
um, places that rely heavily on the American dollar are at a significant point of weakness here. And the reason is that because countries that may not be able to raise money, they may not be able to borrow money using a Filipino peso, for example, they may be forced to borrow money in American dollars because American dollars is the world currency, and it doesn't run the risk as badly as hyperinflation as what it would in a smaller country. Now, the reason for that is because a place like the Philippines, if they have too much US dollar debt, may need to print a lot more Filipino pesos to try and buy US dollars to repay the US dollar debt. And that's why we're seeing the strong US dollar. If you look at the dollar currency, the DXY, that is definitely very elevated. So those sorts of countries are at a particular risk, and you do need to be aware of that. Um, and if you're not buying assets in those sorts of situations, then you're probably just getting poorer.
Just a lot of things. People are crying out because things are getting high. Prices of meat is getting high. Electricity bill is getting high, especially here in the Philippines, where price of USD to peso conversion rate is just peso is just going down. Our economic state is going down, and we can say that we are certainly in a recession. So to those people, stop spending your money blindly. Use it for something that will benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, I think like more to the point, and this is not just people in the Philippines, it's people anywhere.
Anywhere.
We live in a digital age, and it's very easy to say, oh, the rest of the world, inflation, central banks, government printing, none of this is my fault. I think at the end of the day, that one of the things we want to communicate in the channel is that those are actually excuses. They might be factual excuses, but they are still excuses. We live in a world where we've got the internet, we've got all of this information at hand. There's nothing actually stopping us from learning how to invest, but how to create more value. I mean, in terms of you earning an income, if you're not earning any income, you can't invest. So you need to focus on what you're doing as a career, as a job, how you're giving value every day, because that's how you're going to earn money. And ideally, how it works is you earn more than what you need to get through week to week. And with that extra, you can then invest. Now, if you're using your time wisely to learn on the internet and sorry, the internet makes me sound really old, but learn about these new technologies, well, you can identify these ways and these places where to put your chips and get exceptional returns. And it does give you a chance of getting ahead over a long period of time. So I think the narrative that, oh, the world we're living in, the inflation, can actually be very disempowering to people, and it actually stops them from identifying these massive opportunities that are actually just right in front of them.
Yeah, well, exactly. Everyone can learn easily nowadays, and everyone can make money easily nowadays because we have the internet, the Web3 starting up. Well, that's what I have something in mind here, bro. Like as the world is slowly turning into a digitalized world where money are digitalized, Bitcoin, crypto coins are basically being used every day. Um, do you think that this is good for us, or would it be better if we just stick with what we have with papers?
That is a hard question. The way I look at it is actually, let me go back. The reason that it's a
Yeah,
hard question is because we only live through a certain period of time. Like I'm not old enough to
yeah,
understand the subtle differences in the money system. I've got a pretty good understanding of the money system and why it cannot go on in the way that it's built, but it doesn't necessarily mean that changing it is going to be better. I think change is going to happen. I think change is unavoidable, but what happens in that change, we don't know. It could be that the stakeholders get in this central bank digital currency sort of thing where the same people that hold the power now still hold the power in that environment. And in fact, actually, they have more power under a central bank digital currency because now they've got access to all of this data. Um, that is probably the kind of the negative way of looking at the future. And I definitely think that governments are going to try it. Or there's the positive way of uh, Bitcoin um, as the standard, but that doesn't mean it's perfect either. You've got to remember that based on our money system, the big strength is that if we do go into some sort of depression, we can print money to spend ourselves out of a depression. Unfortunately, we live in a world now where we've just had that as a safety net for too long, and we're not really using it as a safety net. So I think change is going to happen. I think we are going to transform our monetary system in some way or another. I think calamity has to happen first because people won't vote out the establishment unless
yeah,
they're all on the same page. And at the moment, everyone's still fighting. If you look at America, it's still left versus right. We need a calamity for everyone to get together and say, all right, well, we're going to get rid of all of these politicians, all of these guys that are 80, 90 years old. Do you think they're there actually looking after the people? Hell no, they're getting rich. They're lining their pockets. Why was Nancy Pelosi and her son in Taiwan? Because they're getting rich. They're not
yeah.
there to look after the common people. So my point is that calamity has to happen, something pretty bad for everyone in the world to say, all
Mm.
right, we are going to have a new future, and that new future is going to involve the new technologies that we've all invented. So until that happens, we are not going to have liftoff for crypto in general. And that's my point. Going back to the money creation sort of thing, and what we said at the top, I don't think crypto is going to do anything for a little bit, because we're reliant on the powers that be to basically print a lot of money again, like they've done from 2011 or the GFC till now. The environment isn't right for money printing. The environment will be right when they need a reason to print money and they can convince everyone in parliament to print money.
Mhm.
And that'll be when the stock market craps itself, because all of the politicians, guess what? They're getting rich if the stock market's going well. If it's not, they're getting poorer. So they're going to say, oh, yeah, go for it. Print all the money you want. When that point happens is when there's going to be a prolonged bull market for crypto and everything else, by the way.
That is an interesting take on the topic. Well, on myself, I am on the young side, on the youth side of this generation. I see this change as one of the best thing because I see it as money will circulate more easily. But then your point is that the richer is just getting rich and the poor is just getting poor. That is really something for you guys to study as well and maybe get some words or some meaning out of it.
I think that sums it up well. And I think I would just go back again. It's all outside environment. And if you are controlled by your outside environment and you're not controlled by yourself, that is your responsibility. And again, we've all got this opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
Stop focusing on the outside world and just focus in on what you can learn and what you can do for yourself.
We're gonna wrap it out around here, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, comment down below. What do you think? Is this the digital world good for us or bad for us?
I want to hear from people who disagree. People who think,
Yeah,
people, I want to hear from the Moon Boys.
I want to hear that as well. Guys,
They're
get
all
yourself.
gone.
Yeah. Well, goodbye, guys. Comment down below.